Well, it's eyes wide shut. The real question is, why does a commission called the Elections Integrity Commission have people like Chris Kobach who have no integrity?
Yeah.
And I'm not, and I don't say that loosely. It's not just an epithet.
No, this is the guy who was the author of SB 1020.
He's a fibber. He just makes stuff up. And so it was fascinating to see this gang of vote fraud hunters to tell you that there's massive vote fraud. And of course, people say it's ridiculous, it's stupid. The problem is that the joke's on us because it may be foolish because they're not finding these great, hordes of fraudulent voters, not arresting them, but they are using that as an excuse to change voting rules, and as they've done since 2006 when they began requiring ID in many states. And the purpose is simply to stop voters of color, and the color is blue, Democrat. Unfortunately, a lot of Democrats have gone along, including there is a Democrat on the panel, Bill Gardner.
Now, isn't that a good thing to have, some fox watching the chicken coop? It's a terrible metaphor. It's the wrong metaphor for this, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's the great fraud hunter. So where's the beef? Show us the stuff. So Bill Gardner, by the way, the one Democrat. He is the reason why they had the meeting in New Hampshire. Is he's from New Hampshire, and he's the guy that is the source of Kobach's claim that 6,000 people and maybe many more from Massachusetts voted in the New Hampshire in the New Hampshire.
Wait a minute, was a Democrat
election.
Who said that?
And so here's the thing, and he said because they used Massachusetts driver's license to vote in New Hampshire. Now, they know exactly who these people are. They have their names and addresses, but the incompetent Secretary of State of New Hampshire absolutely refuses to have them arrested. By the way, the incompetent Secretary of State of New Hampshire is Bill Gardner, the guy who made the accusation. In other words, he's accused 6,000 people or more of voting illegally in New Hampshire. He has their names, addresses, everything.
Now, I used to live in New Hampshire. New Hampshire has got a bunch of really good colleges. I mean, Dartmouth is in New Hampshire.
Did you vote there last week? Did you vote there in the 16?
Yeah, right.
Right.
No, I did
okay.
not. But there's a bunch of colleges in New Hampshire, and to the best of my knowledge, if you go to college in New Hampshire, say you live in Indiana or Massachusetts or wherever, and you're going to college in New Hampshire, you're there 9 months out of the year, so you establish domicile. In other words, you can legally be part of New Hampshire. You can vote in New Hampshire, even though you're not legally a resident. I mean, that's the law in New Hampshire, and you don't have to get a New Hampshire driver's license to vote. Why has that simple reality not sunk into these fools?
Well, it's because, I hate to say it, Tom, they're not really fools. They're wise fools. They know exactly what they're doing, which is to create a hysteria that we need all kinds of rules to, for example, once again, we go back to a system called cross-check. Let's see, because what New Hampshire is saying, what Kobach and the so-called Democrat, by the way, the League of Women Voters said he's not a Democrat, but the League, or as Chris Kobach calls them, the Communist League of Women Voters. I can't make that up. That's what he calls them all the time, the Communist League. So Gardner and Kobach in this, and remember, this is Trump's commission, so this is going to affect voting systems nationwide if they get what they want. They are saying that people are voting not only in New Hampshire illegally, but New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And the way that you find that is by using the system called cross-check, which Kobach has come up and said, oh, my God, people are registered in 2 states. Obviously, they're double voters. We have this big crime wave. There's 2 things. If you were a Massachusetts resident and driver, and then you went to school in New Hampshire, and you just kept your old license, you're not voting in 2 states. They don't have a single case of that. They made the accusation, by the way. Kobach has listed tens of thousands of people in Massachusetts and New Hampshire who are supposedly double voters or double registered illegally. He hasn't arrested one, nor his buddy Gardner has not arrested one. You then go to school in New Hampshire. You are now a New Hampshire resident, or as you say, the technical word is domicile. You're supposed to vote in New Hampshire, and you don't have to change your driver's license. I can tell you, I know someone in the same situation, my daughter, who is domiciled in one state but kept her New York driver's license because she doesn't drive in the state where she goes to school.
Yeah.
It's very common. So they're using obvious situations. And again, if there are illegal voters, bust them. In fact, give me the names. I will go and arrest them. I got their cross-check list, the Massachusetts, New Hampshire crosses. I don't see a single illegal voter. I have the names. I've contacted people. This is all ridiculous. They're students or people who've moved and haven't changed their driver's license. It doesn't matter. It's and once again, they're not busting people because the crime doesn't exist. The whole crowd, his whole little cabal, and and of course the other business that they're talking about is that illegal aliens, Tom, are voting in our elections. So and
Greg,
we know what that's heading.
Isn't this really an attempt to simply take us back to that era from the mid-1860s or early 1870s? Actually, I'd say the mid-1870s, the beginning of the death of Reconstruction, through really 1965, to the Voting Rights Act, where in southern states they'd say, well, we got these people down here who aren't all that smart, so we got to give them a literacy test. And we got people down here who, they really don't know how the economy works. They don't make any money, so we got to charge them a poll tax to make sure that they can vote. To prove that they're upstanding citizens, and all these other BS excuses that they put out for years and years to block the vote of basically of people of color.
Well, what you're bringing up, of course, is all the Jim Crow era laws. A lot of people misunderstand American history. When Martin Luther King was marching from Selma to Montgomery to demand the Voting Rights Act, black people, there's no law in the books that said black people can't vote. People misunderstand that. It was just this same kind of game that you had to have all kinds of, to prevent vote fraud. The Ku Klux Klan, and I kid you not, the Ku Klux Klan wrote laws that, made sure that they would block black people and poorer people, which, by the way, is Catholics at that time that they were going after. And there's no law in the books that said black people, Catholics can't vote or poor people can't vote. What it was a series of rules to try to prevent so-called vote fraud. So you got your history right, and so we're now going back into that dark Jim Crow history, except instead of using white sheets to scare away voters, they're using spreadsheets created by Chris Kobach, the chairman of this commission. He's also Secretary of State of Kansas, and once again. In fact, it was Kobach himself, and Kobach's called me. I've spoken to him. In fact, if you look at my film, I jump him.
Yeah,
when he tries to get away from me.
Brilliant piece. And by the way, I should have mentioned that when I introduced you. You're the author and filmmaker of The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, which is an absolutely mind-bogglingly brilliant movie that you have to see it, and you have to show it to all your friends. And you can watch it on Amazon for $3, and it's brilliant.
Well, I'm going to save you $3. Let me save you $3 because in 2 weeks you're going to have the new version out, which you can get from the GregPalast.com. Cool. Let me mention though that yesterday I'm very, very concerned about this claim that non-citizens are voting. Chris Kobach himself says it's very, very easy to find these people and to bust them, yet he has not busted them. By the way, as the Secretary of State of Kansas, he has the legal authority to make arrests. He's failed to do so. And same with this guy Gardner, and he has a guy named Hans von Spakovsky of the Heritage Foundation on his panel on the Trump election integrity panel.
Hans is like voter suppression, central. I mean, he's been on this beat for years.
Well, again, he said that the Heritage Foundation has 1,100 specific cases of voter fraud. I've actually looked at the Heritage site. Sorry, it ain't there. They have a list of claims that were made, and we don't have any busts. And there have been about, as the ACLU points out, more people serve on the commission than have been arrested and convicted of vote fraud in America.
Absolutely amazing.